Hello everyone. I am honored and humbled to deliver something for you all. First, I would like to thank the Commission on Higher Education Caraga for allowing me and giving me this opportunity to deliver something that is timely, is something that our university, my home university, is also working on. I'll be giving my talk with the title, A Glimpse of the Virtual Classroom. I am Joey Arlis O. Vergara, currently the University Press Director of Caraga State University. And aside from my administrative functions, I am also handling courses for our BS Physics program. Before going into the details of my talk, let me present to you the objectives of my presentation. In this talk, I am primarily aiming at providing you with necessary knowledge about virtual class learning. Specifically, at the end of my session, I would like to enable you define the difference and similarities of the physical and the virtual classroom. I would like also to enable you identify a few leading virtual classroom approaches and providers, and also to identify how are you going to integrate, innovate, and implement a virtual class which suits your current available resources. And these objectives can be accomplished as I present to you the 4 parts of my presentation. First, we will be defining virtual classroom, how it is compared to the physical classroom or the traditional classroom. We'll be defining virtual classroom and flexible or blended learning. Second, talking about the glimpse into the virtual classroom. So I'll be taking you into this world of virtual classroom. And I'll be discussing few virtual classroom available in the market, the digital learning environments, and the similarities and differences of these learning environments. The third part of my talk will focus on some challenges in developing a virtual classroom system. I'll be talking about facilities and resources, content generation and delivery, quality management system or QMS, and security. And the last part of my talk, it will be about the virtual classroom and the flexible learning in general. And of course, I'll be talking to you some similarities and differences. We all know the definition of a classroom. It is a place where the students or the learners, the educators or the teachers will have some interaction. It could be in the physical one, or it also could be in the virtual one. As to the virtual classroom, we all know that virtual classroom is like a virtual learning environment that is an environment where most of us are aware of having these class sessions by the aid of technology. The word virtual, I guess, is very familiar to all of us. But for virtual learning environment, we have 2 types. We have the synchronous and the asynchronous one. The only difference between the 2 is the time span and the time spent. For most of the virtual classrooms, we have 3 types. We have the MOOCs, we have the boot camps, and of course, we have the online courses or online degree programs. So what's the basic difference between these 3 platforms or definitions of virtual classrooms? MOOCs, or the Massive Open Online Courses. We have the leading companies or platforms for MOOCs. We have the Coursera. I guess all of us or most of us has experience enrolling to some Coursera courses. Or maybe some of us has enrolled in edX. So what are these MOOCs? What's the difference between the MOOCs, the bootcamps, and the online degree programs? For example, Coursera and edX, these are the current leading MOOCs provider in the market. These 2 are founded by big universities. Coursera, it has been founded in Stanford, and it has expanded to other universities like Yale, Stanford, Princeton, Illinois, Duke, Penn State, and even it has partnership with Google. edX, on the other hand, it is a spin-off founded by MIT and Harvard. Its leading partners are Oxford, Zurich, and London. It offers more on humanities and natural sciences. edX is generally inclined to nonprofit operations. That's according to Educatico. MOOCs are designed with bite-sized delivery of lessons. Bite-size is not the usual type of lesson delivery of which in our traditional classroom, for most of us in HEIs, we were accustomed to delivering our lessons in a span of 1.5 hours for our lecture courses and maybe 3 to 6 hours for our laboratory courses. But in the MOOCs, usually courses or topics are delivered in just a span of 5 minutes or maybe 10 minutes. So that's the approach of MOOCs like the Coursera and the edX. Another example of the virtual classroom is the bootcamp. We have two leading bootcamps provider in the market as of today. These are the General Assembly and Thinkful. The common of these two providers and its difference to MOOCs is that for MOOCs, it is usually designed for a longer period of time and it is based on the pacing, choice of the student or the learner. Bootcamps are virtual classroom in which it is designed for those who are wanting to finish a course or a certificate in a very short period of time. Bootcamps are designed in a manner where the student has the option to have a one-on-one interaction or a one-on-one tutorial with his or her mentor. Bootcamps are designed for a complete course in a very short period of time. Bootcamps sometimes are higher when it comes to cost as compared to the MOOCs. Usually, bootcamps are designed for engineering, for business courses, and for market-driven short courses. The next kind of virtual classroom is the online degree program. In our country, we have few universities who are leading in the open university systems. We have the UP, we have the PUP, even we have the AMA. According to them, AMA is the first full online university in the Philippines. We have the CLSU, we have the Pangasinan State U, and other few universities in our country. But worldwide, almost all big universities around have been offering degree programs online. Most of these open universities has been delivering these programs through blended learning. In the blended learning mode, the delivery of the content and assessment are done as a combination of face-to-face and online or distant learning, but with a considerable reduced time of physical classroom interaction. Now, let me take you into the virtual classroom. The question is, can our learners expect a classroom experience by the time we open our doors for them comes first semester? This we cannot answer until we get the feedback from our students. At this moment, what we can do is to do our best by replicating almost all the physical component that our learners, our students have been experiencing from their basic education up before the pandemic came in. So what are the components that our learners are used to? We have been providing them curriculum and they are used to the kind of content delivery or instruction delivery that we have been giving to them, and they are familiar with how they are given credits of their courses. They are familiar with how they are going to get awards or certificates or even diploma. Our students, our learners can identify themselves by the time they will wear their uniforms, they will come into the gates of their schools or their institutions. They can feel that they are students. And by the time they came into their class sessions, we will see the classroom amenities. Some of them are experiencing the very traditional classroom where they can see the chalkboard and the chalk. And for some, they are also experiencing some modern physical classroom. But no matter what type or kind of experience these students has or have before the COVID-19, again the question is, can these students experience the same feeling of a classroom environment comes first semester? So for this list, and relative to our institutions or our personal experiences, it could be little or more, or maybe some of us don't have experience on blended learning or online learning or flexible learning or e-learning or distant learning. But I believe that most of these vague and challenging components, the very critical one is the delivery of instruction in the classroom amenities. For the delivery of content or instruction, I say that it is on the faculty or on the educator's shoulders. And for the classroom amenities, it is on the shoulders of the institution itself. So wherever you are connected with or connected to, these critical points, these critical components of trying to provide a virtual classroom to our students is something that we have to consider and to ponder upon based on our current resources, our experience, and of course, our way of envisioning what will be happening and what we will be offering to our students in the next semesters or even years. On the net, we have these 13 leading virtual classroom providers, which today the number one is the Zoom. Next is the Cisco WebEx, the LearnCube, the Adobe Connect, the Schoology, the Tawoti, the Big Blue Button, Panopto, the Damo Virtual Classroom, Samba Live, Blackboard, Top Hat, WizIQ, and we can extend the list as many as we can find in the net. And based on the ease of use, the number one is still Zoom. Then next is the Schoology, the Cisco WebEx, and so on and so forth. This list is a growing number. Maybe few of us have used EasyClass, Google Classroom, Canvas, Tutor Room, Agora, Jigsaw Interactive, Scolica, or other similar platform. All of these are digital learning environments. But for the digital learning environments, most of us are thinking about blended learning. So what's blended learning? We have blended learning for the full face-to-face interactions, and now we are eyeing for a blended learning with a combination of the face-to-face interaction and the online or the virtual environment. But blended learning is a combination of face-to-face and distance learning, broadly defined because of the cross-interaction of the traditional blended learning wherein the students are exposed to activities or given their learning through different modes of content delivery, activities, groupings, sessions, but all of which are given in a physical dimension or in a physical interaction. Actually, there are three general models or types of blended learning. First is the physical traditional classroom blended learning. This physical or traditional blended learning maybe have been adopted in your institution. The second one is the self-paced online instruction. This is another kind of blended learning where the students are enrolled to courses, interact to their professors, maybe their classmates, but not in a synchronized or in a synchronous manner. That is why this is another kind of blended learning, but this is now in the digital or in the virtual environment. The third kind of a blended learning is based on a web conferencing and collaboration. This is where most of our content is delivered through learning management system, and our students or learners will just access and using different forums or formats or platforms on the web and any communication lines, our learners will have a collaboration between this group or from one class to the other, or from one group to the other, or from one student to the other, and different kinds of approaches and opportunities. But we have been encountering different terms. We have e-learning, online learning, and distant learning. So what's the difference between these three terms? A delivery of instruction or training where the interactions is purely over a communication line. Having these terms is just a terminology which comes not because of the concept, but it is because of the marketing strategies employed by the platform founders or inventors or the company owners just to market the product. But the overall concept is just the same. The instruction is being delivered and the interaction is being catered purely over a communication line. It could be a mobile telecommunication line, or it could be a pure internet provider communication line. There is this another term, this open learning. Open learning is another mode which come into play. The concept is to give the learners a self-determined, independent, and interest-guided learning. It focuses on collaborative studies and social learning, as according to IG Global. And there are few learning modes which we could talk about. But in view of our current pandemic experience, let us talk about the new term, flexible learning or flex learning. This flex learning is learner-centered. This is constructivism approach. The delivery of learning is customizable to learners' needs and to their own accessibility. In flex learning, learners are given a wide range of choice on how they are going to learn. And educators are to provide a wide range of assessment tools. There is this flexible, which encompasses almost all modes of learning delivery. There are three levels of implementation. First is the teaching and learner management. Second, operational management, and the institutional management. In this level of implementation, the key aspects are the following. When and where the learning occurs, what and how the learners would learn, how to deliver the instruction, what are the specific strategies for every identified activity, what type of learning resource should be provided, what are the useful technologies to be utilized, when and how to provide the assessment, what kind of support must the administration give to both the educator and the learners alike. These are crucial flexible learning dimensions, according to Wang, that only you and your institution's administration can specifically answer and identify. Now, having all these H and WH questions, let us try again to have a peek into our virtual classroom. And before we even try to open the door of that virtual classroom, let us answer the most important question. How sure are we that our learners or students can come into our virtual classroom? We want our class sessions to be in this virtual classroom environment. But we have to provide a specific answer. And we have to have a grasp if we can really ensure that our students can come into our virtual classroom. If you had conducted a comprehensive survey on your learners or students, you could answer this question right away. However, we have to understand that in the traditional class attendance, our learners come to the class with cars, bicycle, motorcycle, or even by foot. In our desire to let them come into our virtual classroom, Some may come into our classes using smartphone, tablet, PCs, or Macs, and some maybe through imagination only. Setting aside the limitations on the part of our institution and our prospective learners, let us take a look on some of the challenges in developing a virtual classroom. Going back to the components of our formal education or learning system, we have to provide curriculum, we have to deliver the content and instruction, we have to credit courses, we have to grant awards, and we have to identify and to cater learners or students. And of course, we have to provide amenities. And if we are to summarize the components of our educational system, we can identify three major challenges. First is facilities and resources. Second is the content generation and delivery. Third is our quality management system or QMS and security. Because of internet connectivity, we can assure of 24/7 accessibility. We can provide more freedom with a time frame for our students. A freedom when to accomplish a given task if it is within the time frame predefined in our course. We can provide effective time management for our part-time educators or teachers, and of course, time management for our part-time students or part-time learners. It could also provide worldwide branding and connections. It will also provide flexibility when to participate in a co-learners discussion. It could be synchronous or asynchronous. It also offers immediate feedback on tasks and tests. And of course, it enhances digital or ICT skills, both students and faculty or educators. All these are the most common advantages that a virtual classroom offers over a traditional class. With the current technology, there is no closer experience we can provide to our students to traditional classroom other than having a virtual classroom. However, with the reality in our country, we can never provide this exact virtual classroom experience to our students as much as we desire to. As reported in the Philippine Daily Inquirer just this year, our CHEd chairman has said, it is not viable for our Philippine higher education to fully implement a virtual classroom because of internet connectivity issues. That is why let us now define some similarities and differences between the virtual classroom and the flexible learning system. Virtual classroom is the digital version of the traditional classroom, where educators and learners must spend time together during the fixed class schedule. Flexible learning system, on the other hand, it provides all possible flexibility as to where to study, when to study, what to study, how to learn, how to assess, and which are interesting to study. Virtual classroom is program-centered, while flexible learning is learner-centered. The big similarity between these two is the establishment of a learning management system or LMS. Flex learning does not necessarily technology or ICT based. Flex learning goes beyond ICT and cuts across various learning platforms. It explores aspects of shared responsibility, both the educators and the learners. It explores beyond. Flexible learning has this concept which is growing as it goes beyond ICT and as it promotes shared responsibility. Flexible learning is best delivered with team teaching, sharing of resources, and joint ownership of whatever resource that can be generated or created. Again, this is a growing concept. According to Casey and Wilson, there is not yet a standard definition for flexible learning. Because flex learning capitalizes through pedagogical lenses by looking at people with the way they think, they act, live, and interact into a complex, uncertain, changing scenario. It promotes to make appropriate responses through innovative pedagogies, which are good enough to develop the capability or attribute of flexibility. The bottom line is, with flexible learning, we are now at the verge of rethinking the nature of our higher education system in our country. How we value learning and how we are going to facilitate learning in the near future. In the attempt towards flexible learning, there are a few pedagogical ideas which are considered crucial into offering new pathways for our future graduates. These are outlined in this illustration. Since flexible learning is learner-centered, this is about empowering our learners. And these are accomplished in these 5 components. First, the learner empowerment. It involves learners in the learning environment where they are developed and actively engaged in a co-creation process. Next is the future-facing education. We are now refocusing the way we educate the next generation. We are refocusing learning towards engagement and change process. We are rethinking and working for alternative and preferred future scenario. That's according to NSW government, Ryan and Tilbury. We are also decolonizing education. We are moving away from benchmarking our education to a certain continent or culture. We are now trying to create experiences that extends intercultural understanding. We are now revitalizing the learning process down across local and foreign culture. We are trying to have a transformative capabilities. We would like to facilitate learning that goes beyond general knowledge and understanding. We are now gearing towards developing task-specific knowledge, competence, and whole person development. We are crossing boundaries. We are integrating interdisciplinary, interprofessional, and cross-sectoral learning. We are integrating the learning and working environments. And lastly, we are integrating social learning. The integration of social observation learning. We are into developing of culture and learning environment outside the formal curriculum. And now, we have to consider few points before fixing our eyes on having a virtual classroom. We have to ponder on what is happening, what's in it, if we are to deliver online instructions. First, how much harder is it for the teacher to deliver an effective class if the student is viewing the teacher or the whiteboard from a small screen or with a patchy internet? How does the teacher know if a student will take the class on their computer or tablet or mobile phone? What content should the teacher present if they can't see what the student sees? If they are on a laptop, but their student is on a small and old smartphone. How does the disparity of accessibility impact the teaching format in a group activity? Because some of our students may be using a high-speed, maybe are having a high-speed internet connection. Some maybe has a limited Wi-Fi or internet connection. And maybe some don't have any internet connectivity. For example, there is much more significant difference between a next generation of iPhone and a 5-year-old basic Android device versus the latest model of Mac laptop and a 5-year-old Windows PC. Thus, this exposes the teacher or the institution to more technical problems caused by this hardware. What's the impact of this overall scenario to the brand of the institution? What are your plans on how you are going to educate your teachers and your learners about the choice of your learning management system? If you are an administrator, you have to consider this, because not all teachers, how much more students, maybe some students are advanced enough. But generally, with our context, everybody is learning. All of us is in the process of learning. So how are we going to educate ourselves, our co-teachers, and our students on which and what kind and how to use whatever learning management system we are going to use? What if the student is not able to connect via a free Wi-Fi? So we have to consider how much data will the student has to secure. And lastly, what if the student does not take their class in a place they know has a strong internet connectivity? How easy is this to explain to students at the same time to class? And I would like to give you my concluding thoughts. So what now? What are we going to do? Which way we should go? I personally don't know the answer. As obvious as it seems, even our national government is trying everything appropriate as possible in the way we should respond and continue educating the next generation. We are still looking at a rough sketch canvas. And I would like to summarize this talk with the following points. Currently, implementing a fully virtual class approach is not viable for the Philippine higher education institutions. What seems to be best for my institution may not be the best for you. But we shall have the full awareness within our landscapes to provide what is best for our learners, educators, and administrative support personnel. And lastly, as we all look towards the future, we can explore unique ways on how we are going to adapt few concepts of flex learning. Ways that ensures passing on of knowledge, develops skills and person, transforms our learning processes, and promotes culture. Having said all that, thank you for spending your time with me, and I would like to show you the references of my presentation. Again, thank you so much.